It's a very old tale, from a time when loyal animals were a person's companions for travel. Mulla Nasruddin had a donkey that was famous throughout the city for being cheap and clever. People used to say this wasn't just a donkey but half of Mulla Nasruddin's own mind. Wherever Mulla Nasruddin went, he rode his donkey and talked to it the whole way. He never pushed or beat it. Instead, he treated it like an old friend. One cold, silent night, while the whole city was fast asleep, a shadow appeared outside Mulla Nasruddin's house. This wasn't the shadow of an ordinary thief, but of the city's smartest thief, named Chaman. Chaman took such pride in his thieving that he always said, "If I decide to steal something, no one can catch me, because I use my brain." For days, Chaman had his eye on Mulla Nasruddin's donkey. He thought that if he could steal the donkey of a man as clever as Mulla Nasruddin, his reputation among thieves would be made. Chaman quietly climbed over the wall behind Mulla Nasruddin's house. He saw the donkey tied up in the courtyard, sleeping peacefully. The thief skillfully untied the donkey's rope and gestured for it to move quietly. But this was Mulla Nasruddin's donkey too. It wasn't going to budge so easily. Chaman pulled a juicy, sweet carrot from his pocket. Smelling the carrot, the donkey opened its eyes and, tempted, began following the thief. Chaman led the donkey through the city's narrow lanes toward his hideout, feeling as though he'd achieved the greatest victory of his life. The next morning, when the first rays of sunlight fell on Mulla Nasruddin's courtyard, Mulla Nasruddin came outside as usual to feed the donkey. But there was nothing there except silence. The empty stake and the donkey's hoofprints on the ground seemed to be shouting that his loyal companion had been stolen. Mulla Nasruddin didn't make a fuss or cry. He stroked his beard for a moment, deep in thought. He examined the ground carefully, then took a long breath and smiled. His face showed not worry, but a strange mischievousness, as if he had already worked out a plan to catch the thief. He knew the thief was clever, so catching him would require something unusual, rather than an ordinary trick. He left his front door open and went and stood at the city's largest crossroads. People began to gather, and everyone was asking, "Mulla Nasruddin, what happened? Why are you so calm?" "We heard your donkey's been stolen." Mulla Nasruddin replied very seriously, "Yes, the thief has taken my donkey. But I'm not sad for the donkey. I'm sad for the clever thief who took it. The poor fellow has no idea what trouble he's invited." People were stunned to hear this. They thought perhaps losing the donkey had affected Mulla Nasruddin's mind. Meanwhile, Chaman the thief was standing at the corner of the city, watching this whole spectacle. When he heard what Mulla Nasruddin said, doubts began to form in his mind. He thought, if a worldly man like Mulla Nasruddin isn't worried, it must mean there is something about this donkey that I don't know. Chaman had thought he'd get rich by selling the donkey, but Mulla Nasruddin's words made him start to think twice. Mulla Nasruddin's next move was to have it announced throughout the city. "Brothers, whoever has stolen my donkey should return it at once. If he doesn't, I will do exactly what my father did when his donkey was once stolen." On hearing this announcement, a wave of fear swept through the city. People began asking each other what Mulla Nasruddin's father had done. Had he given the thief some terrible punishment, or brought some disaster down on the whole city? Chaman the thief, who considered himself the cleverest of all, now genuinely grew afraid. He thought Mulla Nasruddin's father must have been some great healer or sorcerer who had done something terrible to a thief. His own clever mind now began to frighten him. The more he thought about it, the more tangled his thoughts became. Again and again he went to check on the donkey at his hideout, which stood there calmly chewing its feed. The donkey's silence now felt to Chaman like it was hiding a nightshing. Deep secret by evening, Chaman's courage failed him entirely. He decided that before Mulla could carry out whatever terrifying act his father had once done, it would be better to return the donkey. But he didn't want to do it in any ordinary way, fearing he'd be caught. So he devised a new plan. He would tie the donkey outside Mulla Nasruddin's house in the dead of night and vanish, without anyone knowing. Mulla Nasruddin sat in his courtyard smoking his hookah, smiling as he watched the lane. He knew exactly how to handle a clever thief with just one sentence. He had already stolen the thief's sleep. Mulla Nasruddin said to himself, "The greatest weakness in the world is a person's own fear, and when a man claims to be using his brain, he falls into the trap of fear even faster." At midnight, when the only sound in the city's lanes was the barking of dogs, Chaman the thief crept very cautiously toward Mulla Nasruddin's house, holding the donkey's rope, glancing behind him repeatedly to make sure no one was following. He planned to quietly tie the donkey to its stake and slip away. But just as he reached the house, he heard the sound of Mullah coughing from inside. Chaman froze in his tracks, his heart pounding. He gathered his courage and led the donkey inside. He was just tying the rope to the stake when suddenly a deep voice rang out. "Who's there?" Chaman's legs turned to jelly. Suddenly, Mulla Nasruddin appeared before him, a stick in one hand and a red lantern in the other. Chaman tried to run, but Mullah quickly blocked his path. Mullah asked very gently, "Ah, my clever friend, why such a hurry? Thank you for bringing my donkey back. But first, tell me, why did you go to all this trouble?" The thief stammered. Mulla Nasruddin, I just saw your donkey wandering on the road, so I thought I'd bring it back to you." Mulla Nasruddin laughed and said, "My, what honesty and good character. But why so afraid? Did that old story about my father trouble you?" Chaman swallowed hard and asked, "Mulla Nasruddin, tell me the truth. When your father's donkey was stolen, what did he actually do? Did he cast some spell? Or did he destroy the thief's whole family line?" Mulla Nasruddin smiled and said, "My father did exactly what every clever person does. When his donkey was stolen and despite every effort, couldn't be recovered, he simply went quietly to the market and bought a new donkey." Hearing this, Chaman's mouth fell open. He had been gripped by fear all this time, imagining all sorts of disasters, and now he realized that Mulla Nasruddin had fooled him with nothing but a web of words. Mulla Nasruddin had turned the thief's own cleverness into his weakness. Seeing his silence, Mulla Nasruddin said gently, "Don't worry, friend. A person is always trapped in the cage of his own thinking. You stole because you thought you wouldn't be caught, and you returned the donkey because you thought you'd fall into some mysterious trouble. In both cases, it was your fear and your greed making your decisions for you." Mulla Nasruddin advised him further that true cleverness lies not in deceiving others, but in mastering one's own desires. Chaman bowed his head before Mulla Nasruddin and promised he would give up thieving from then on. Mulla Nasruddin gave him a little money and sent him on his way. The next morning, as sunlight spread across the city, Mulla Nasruddin rode through the middle of the market on his same old donkey. The townspeople, who had been anxious since the day before, waiting to see what terrifying step Mulla Nasruddin take, were astonished. Voices rose from every direction. "Mulla Nasruddin, you got your donkey back. But how? Did you really do what your father did?" Mulla Nasruddin stopped his donkey at the market crossroads and, smiling at the crowd, said, "Brothers, justice has been served. I did exactly what my father did, and the result turned out exactly as it should have." The people's curiosity had reached its peak by now. One man shouted, "Mulla Nasruddin, for heaven's sake, tell us what your father actually did. Did he put some curse on the thief?" Mulla Nasruddin laughed loudly and said, "My father was an extremely patient and contented man. When his donkey was stolen and couldn't be found despite every effort, he simply bought a new donkey, so his work wouldn't stop. I had the same intention that if the thief didn't return the donkey, I would go to the market today and buy a new one. But the thief turned out to be so clever that he got so frightened by my patience that he brought the donkey back himself." The whole market burst into laughter. People who had been expecting some mysterious or terrifying tale instead laughed at Mulla Nasruddin and quick wit. Mulla Nasruddin proved that to defeat an enemy in this world, you don't always need a sword or magic. Sometimes a little psychology and a little patience are enough. After that day, theft in the city decreased, because every thief feared that Mullah might play some clever trick on him too. The lesson of this story is that a person's own fear and doubt often harm them more than even the cleverest enemy.